back. Thank you for being here again for our next session. This is a session about, well, these are all returning faculty who have been here for more than 1 year. Some of us have been here for many more than 1 years. And so I'm gonna ask them a bunch of questions, and then after we get done with those questions, we'll open it up for you to ask us questions really about anything. Really, this is general stuff. If you'll see it from the questions I ask, these are really open-ended, general questions, not about specific parts of our job, but really about what it's like to be here at EKU. My name is Perry Winslow. I am a foundation professor and a professor in the Department of Psychology and the director of FCT&L initiatives. We've already met once, but I thought I'd introduce myself again so you know who I am, and I've been here for a really long time. I won't quite say how long. So I'm going to let these people introduce themselves to you by them telling you their name, what department they're from, and one thing that surprised them about EKU when they first got here. So I'm going to pass the mic down and we'll just go in order.
Hi there, I'm Jason Fry. I'm in the Department of Physics, Geosciences, and Astronomy. I'm an associate professor. This is 8. I can still count. Once it gets past 10, you stop counting, I guess, right?
I don't know. I'm 17. I'm still
17, still got it. Okay, good. And I'm lucky enough to start sabbatical this fall. So
nice. Congratulations.
Excited for that. What else was I supposed to say? Did I say other things? Oh, well, we'll talk more about the student population, but I mean, EKU student population is super unique and wonderful to work with. So,
all right, my name is Dana Howell, and I came here 20 years ago. Never thought I would ever say that. I did not come with a plan to stay for 20 years, but here I am, so it's a good place. I came from another institution. At that institution, I was associate professor and department chair. So when I came here, I had some experience. Was faculty in the Department of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy for a while, and then became the department chair, and just last year became the interim associate dean at the College of Health Sciences. And my previous university, we only had 4 faculty, and here at EKU in my department at the time that I came, we had about 25. So that was wasn't a surprise. It's actually one of the reasons I came here, was I wanted to kind of see the difference between a small group and a larger group. And, but it's surprising how those different groups work, but they were a great group, and I'm really glad I came.
Hello, I'm Karina Powell. I'm here a little bit less than Dana. I'm just kidding. This is my 3rd year. I joined EKU in 2024 as an assistant professor of sociology, and I'm starting as an assistant professor in criminal justice department this year. And the one thing that surprised me is how approachable people were. As a new faculty, I thought I have to figure everything on my own. But in fact, there are so many people around you who they are to support you, to provide you all kinds of resources, and just genuinely interested in your well-being and success.
So my name is Lucas Barnes. I'm a lecturer in the Homeland Security and Emergency Management program here at EKU, and we're under the Department of Safety and Security, okay? So quite a few words there. This is my 3rd year as a full-time faculty member. Prior to that, I was an emergency manager for about 12 years. So I came from practice, and then I also taught part-time at EKU here for about 5 years. But what has really kept me here at EKU is 2 things. First of all, I'm a local. So I'm from Irvine, Kentucky. That's where I still live. My commute is about 20 to 25 minutes, just depending on traffic. So I love it here. But it's also how friendly everyone is here at EKU, including the faculty, including the staff, and of course our students as well. I still remember my department chair, Tom Schneid, as an undergrad student here, being extremely friendly in the hallway to me. And I was a criminal justice student. I was not an occupational safety student by any means, but he made me feel welcome. And I could say the same thing about so many faculty members in the College of Justice and Safety who kept me here at EKU. So thank you.
Okay, pass the mic. Okay, so next question is, what's one thing you wish someone had told you before your first semester?
I wish that I had known more about the culture here. I am not from Kentucky, and I think that folks that are definitely have a leg up. I have lived a lot of places, many, many states, mostly in the West. I was not super familiar with Southern culture or Midwestern culture. And years ago, they used to do a tour for people to go out into Appalachia and really see what it's like. I think I was one of the last years that they did that, and I actually had to miss it, and it's bothered me ever since. It takes a long time, I think, to really understand the culture here. Not that it's weird or crazy or anything like that. It's just it's its own animal, and I've found the same thing in other places that I've lived. Is like when you're a local, you just know things that locals know, and when you're not from that area, you don't. But I really do think if you are coming here and you are not familiar with this particular area of the country, learn. I mean, it's just really helpful to talk to your students, get to understand what their life is like, the kinds of things that are important to them, and it will definitely give you a leg up in teaching students here.
Well, I wish someone told me in the very beginning that you do not need to spend hours and hours polishing your lectures and instead focusing on developing relationships with your students, actually be there for them. I'm a control freak. I like to control everything. So I need to know exactly when everything happens. But sometimes you need to let yourself learn alongside the students. And they do generally feel like that you're with them, that you're interested in them to be successful when you do that, when you're present, when you learn their names, when you respond to them, when you're willing to meet with them. So yeah, that would be my thing.
Absolutely. So I would say for me is you're definitely not alone. Make sure to use your resources here at EKU, including the Victual Center here. Make sure to attend the monthly sessions as you continue in your first year. But my thing is also make sure you document what you do here at EKU, all those contributions. If it's service, if it's scholarship, if it's teaching, make sure to make some notes of that. That's something I still struggle with today. And then when it comes to eval time, I'm going back through and looking at emails and text messages and notes and everything. So if you can just make some notes along the way, that'll save you a lot of time when it comes up time for your eval.
And I will second that because I still have a running document. I'm still in my 8th year, and I was like, okay, I got to start it for next year. And like I basically write the eval as you go on through the year. Absolutely. And if you want to ask us questions about that, please feel free. Another thing is, so I said earlier, the student population. So, I'm also not from Kentucky. I mean, I grew up in Indiana, then I went to Virginia and Tennessee, and I went to different R1 schools. And then coming here, I love it. And no one told me that students are also working 20 to 40 hours a week. I don't think I've met a student who hasn't been working a side job because, when I went to my R1 school, I was like, oh, I can just put the time in. This is my job. School's my job. And that's not true for our student population. And so getting to know each of your students is really useful. And the class sizes that we have here, I don't know about other departments, but my class sizes are not that big. And so I do get to know the students. I do get to know the majors and talk to them about what their life is like. And that's very different from different universities. That's great.
I guess I would just add, one of the things I wish I had known was that you don't have to teach the way you were taught. Because I think a lot of early, I'll speak for myself. I thought, this is the way I was taught. Not in grad school because that's a different thing, but as an undergrad, I could remember, oh, this is what classes were like as an undergrad. So I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. No, that you don't have to do it that way. I mean, you can, it's fine, but there are lots of other options. And so think about what you think is going to work best for you and for your students. First and foremost for your students, right? That's the most important thing. And just realize that there are lots of different ways of designing a course, teaching a class, running a classroom, doing assessments. There are so many different ways of doing it that I've learned over the years, but I wish someone had told me that there is this kind of wide smorgasbord of ways to teach that I didn't know about. So just keep that in mind. So the next question really is about the students, right? So, what would you tell someone about EKU students who had never been to EKU? How would you describe EKU students?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, hardworking and they have to be dedicated because of what's going around, what's going on in their own lives. So I think that's very unique about our students. Also, as you know, we have many first generation students. So like just understanding what college is, the majority of them don't really know, right? Figuring that out. So I think I've now I'm like, okay, are you a first generation student? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about college first. Let's talk about what it means. What are expectations, like clear expectations, because some of them just don't really know what that is, right? And they haven't been told by their parents or their family, things like that. So I think that's one big part of the student population.
Yeah, I literally had written on my sheet, first gen, hardworking, and they all work jobs. So ditto. But I will also say, I tend in the occupational science, occupational therapy program, it's competitive entry. So we do not get them until they're coming in as a junior into our program. And for me personally, I didn't teach them till they were in the graduate program. So my perspective of them is they're kind of past that learning to be a college student thing. And they are extremely hardworking. They do not want to fail. And that makes them really anxious, stressed, trying to go home on the weekends, work, do family, now they're the medical person in the family. So a lot of times there's a lot of reliance on them for that. They have a lot of things going on in their life and they want to get all A's, like not just a 98, they want that 100 in every single class. And so I think knowing that about them, and I don't think that's just Kentucky students. I think that's a trend nationwide, is that mental health is definitely, and anxiety is definitely an issue with a lot of students, but we find that we have to give them a lot of resources to managing their own emotions and expectations and that type of thing. Walking people over to the counseling center if needed, or sending them to different services on campus. So just really being aware of what this campus offers, which is actually quite a bit for people who need that kind of help. So, yep.
I'll say that they said it all now. I wish I had Mike first when they asked this question. I feel sorry for you. But yes, our student population is very unique. It's very diverse. And another thing I wanted to mention is that some of the students, at least what I encountered, they struggle. Sometimes they struggle with food insecurity. Sometimes I even had students who didn't have a permanent place to live when they were still attending college. So having that high expectations is good, but at the same time, being flexible and being understanding, it's also very important. Some of the students also, I don't think we mentioned that, parents or caregivers, and also cut them a slack sometimes, not in terms of like, oh, you can you can submit it whenever you want, but more like, let's come up with an individual plan. Let's work together. So they like to see you on their side. And if you're willing to do this, they would appreciate it so much. And they're so appreciative. Like I've taught in different other universities and dealt with other student populations, students at DKU, they do appreciate what we do here for them.
Sure. So I'll definitely echo my colleagues here. So I had first gen, I had kindness, hardworking, jobs, family, school, all that already down. But the last point there is diversity of experience. And as I was preparing, what came to mind for me was one of my classes from back in the spring. So 4 students came to mind. They would all sit together. So the one student, he was a military veteran, worked in military intel for about 5 years. He was abroad for the majority of that time. And he's married as well. Okay. The student directly beside him, 18 years old, freshly out of high school, first time away from home. Then the next student, she is a college athlete on the EKU softball team. So she's frequently traveling, conditioning, practicing. Okay. And then that final student was in his 40s. He had worked for several different organizations, different leadership positions, and he's just coming back to finish up his degree to continue his career. So that's the diversity that you're going to have in your classrooms, on campus as well as online. So just keep that in mind.
And I would just say, following up on what Karina said, I don't ever remember having a student interaction where I thought, this student has a sense of entitlement. I have colleagues at other universities, that's a problem, right? Students come in expecting that you're going to do all this stuff and that, they are, have high, I don't know, it's kind of unrealistic expectations about what it's going to be for them. Our students really are pretty humble, many of them. And it's refreshing, it's nice, but I also find it to be a challenge sometimes because, they're not going to ask for help too. I mean, students don't ask a lot of help, extra help. Sometimes they do, but it's more often than if you reach out to them and say, hey, like I see that you're really good at this and, or I see that you're struggling. I can't tell how many times I used to call them office hours. Now I call them student hours to make it seem like this is an hour for you. Has not made students come to my student hours more. I have to say, I hold them in the library sometimes. I'm like, hey, you don't have to come to my office, which is way over there in a scary place, and they're intimidated to come into my office. No, I'm in the library. Come on, start. I mean, they're busy, right? They're busy, and so they don't have a lot of time to do all that stuff. But I also feel like they just, because so many of our first gen, they don't want to bother you. And that's, I want them to bother me, but it's hard to get them to come to me and ask me for things. So just be aware that, it's going to take a little bit of you putting yourself out there a little bit more than you think you might have otherwise, because our students are coming in with some of them, not all of them, but some of them a little of a reluctance to take advantage of the resources they have, including us. So again, sense of entitlement, very unpleasant. I have not run into that at all. And I've taught honors classes with our students who are, great, as good a students as anybody has anywhere in the nation. None of them have come to me or come off to me with a sense of entitlement, which is really great. Okay, next question. This is a tough one. How do you protect your time for scholarship when teaching and service will take up all of your time if you let it?
So maybe you've already heard this before, but they'll hear this more and more, I think, from other faculty members, is finding those 2-4 or 3-4 opportunities. So you've got the 3 teaching, research, service. If you can find any way to mix those two and get a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 out of it, that's the best way that I've found. So, for example, I'm one of the research faculty fellows here who are trying to bring up our research university-wide. And so I see mentorship and research also that go into my teaching. So I teach research-directed classes. I try to bring my research into some of those teaching. And anytime, and a lot of my services also mix with research. So I sometimes get 3-for-1s, right? Another thing is to deliberately make time. So I have blocks on my schedule that say busy, and that's my time, and you can't take it away. And that's my time to do my research. So I think making deliberate choices about spending time doing it and mixing those different areas as best as you can.
Yeah, so I'll say, as somebody who was on the non-tenure track, I'm not obligated to do research and service. Now, I do plenty of service here at the university, and I have to kind of watch that from time to time. Research, I do a little bit in there, but again, my main focus is on teaching. But I'm also a doctoral student in the Doctor of Education program here at EKU. So that takes up quite a bit of my time as well. But what I would say is, try to set some boundaries, as everybody else has kind of said here. Block off some time within your schedule where you can focus on certain activities. If it's teaching, if it's research, if it's service, try to do that as much as you can. I know for me, that's something that I definitely struggle with. What seems to kind of help me sometimes is to get out, go for a drive, and then pull over, make some notes, then go back home, sit on the couch, turn the TV on, and then get to work. Okay. A little bit of One Tree Hill or Fast and Furious, whatever, really, whatever you're feeling at that moment, okay, kind of playing in the background kind of helps me a little bit. So just figure out what's going to work for you, block a little bit of time, and then get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to piggyback on that, blocking a time, um, dividing big project into smaller chunks and making sure that you have that scheduled. And it's not just like, oh, maybe, maybe not. No, you have to sit down and do that. You cannot read email. You cannot do anything else. You just have these 2 hours specifically for these little chunk to focus on. And then you will feel much more accomplished when you be like, oh, this is done. Check. Just a small step, but then in the end, that will turn out to be bigger project or publication that you'll need. Also, I would recommend collaborating with your colleagues, whether it's your department or department across, the university. I find it more enjoyable to work with colleagues, to work with students, together on different projects, publications, and you keep each other accountable. We will poke each other like, hey, where's that draft that you promised me? So that's great also. And then from that collaboration, something else might happen too. Like maybe you collaborate on a paper first, but then you decide to teach together or vice versa. So it's always much more fun to do it this way.
Yeah, great advice from everybody. I think talk to your department chair about time and really make sure you understand how you can carve out that time. Don't, they're going to assume you're figuring it out if you don't go talk to them. In some departments, you may be able to take a day where you have no classes, or you may be asked to be scheduled that way. And of course, now we have the block scheduling. I guess technically we all have that Friday to work on things, but I think it's going to be all meetings. But so talk to them and really think about making it a concrete, putting it on your schedule. It's not always possible to get those giant chunks of time. So, go with those little ones. You'll get stuff done. I love the idea of collaborating. You'll be twice as productive if you have a partner, because when it's on their plate, you have time to do other things. And when it comes back to you, it's already halfway done. So I think that's a great idea. And if you're new here, spend this first year really meeting people and finding out projects that are already going on, things that you can come onto. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You do not have to start something from scratch to be successful in scholarship. And I think when you're just starting out, especially if you're new to scholarship, it makes a lot more sense to go on to an established team. So meet people who are doing things you're interested in and maybe outside of your department. And that's why it's great that you're all here. And, these are folks that you'll cohort with for years. Remember when we were in that first meeting, have you thought about what if we did this project? So a lot of things come together like that, really informally. So go for that. Scholarship, learn what it is in your department. Is it a bunch of publications, or are presentations okay? Because sometimes presentations are an easier entryway if you're new to scholarship. And so maybe you get on with somebody else again, you're doing a presentation at your local state conference before you move on to some of the bigger stuff. Really be familiar with those guidelines, because if you do have to publish, that time is going to fly by. It can take several years to get something published, especially if you have not yet collected the data. So make sure you're really writing out. I'll recommend a 5-year plan, and I'm happy to talk to anybody about that. And just really use the resources around, because there are a lot of ways to help. If you're sitting on data like your dissertation, publish it, start there. That's the best place. If you already have the data, you've already gotten it written into a format, then get it published and then move on to your next project while you're working on that one.
Maybe I could just say one more thing about collaboration. So have we talked about the scholars community yet?
You
Okay.
have not, but
Right.
now's a good time.
But so we have university initiatives to try to bolster collaboration. So we have something called the scholars community that you'll hear more about later, maybe. But we can say more now. It was very useful for me. So the provost has an internal grant award for cross collaborative work. So my first year when I joined the scholars community, I just talked to people, and I do physics. I was talking to people in psychology and Spanish and other things. We all got ideas together and ended up all writing grants, and we got them, and it's great. And so not only working across colleges, but maybe it's different for the sciences, but I work with different universities. I work with the University of Kentucky. I work with Indiana. I work with universities in Ohio. The regions around here. And so not only you're not alone here, in your scholarship field, think about collaborating across institutions. We're in a unique situation that we're designated as a PUI, a primarily undergraduate institutions, and sometimes that is beneficial for collaborations. Sometimes collaborations need undergraduates for doing their scholarship or their research. And so I found that I can actually leverage that to be an opportunity and a plus in terms of collaborating with different institutions. So.
And in the spirit of 2-for-1, there's also the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning. So I don't know if you know what that is, but it's really what it sounds like. It's doing research on teaching, essentially. You all have a teaching load. You're all going to be making decisions about how to teach your class. And hopefully it's based on some, again, there's a giant research literature out there about teaching that if you don't know about, you can learn about. And once you learn about it, then you can start contributing to it because, again, you're going to teach these classes and you're going to make decisions. And if you're mindful about it, if you plan it out, you can actually do some research about your teaching practices and actually collect data even from your students. There's a whole process and get that published. And in many departments on campus, SOTL research, Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, counts as research, right? And so in my department of psychology, if I published a paper that is about teaching, that counts as a publication just like a paper I publish about psychology. It counts the exact same weight. And I think it's really smart that we do that because this is why we're here, right? To learn how to teach better. So if you want to get involved in Scholarship of Teaching and Learning at EKU, we'll have lots of activities on campus. There are lots of people on campus who are experts in SOTL, including Rusty. And so if you want to get involved in doing research on teaching, it really is a 2-for-1, right? It's a beautiful 2-for-1. And if you get collaborators, it's even better. So think about that as a great way to do two things at one time. All right, the next question is a little bit further afield. What's something about EKU or Richmond that's made you feel like home?
So yeah, I didn't write anything down. You guys wrote things down. Okay. So I mean, the community here is very nice. I think it's actually quite nice. So I think this is when I talk to my students, I'm like, well, this is the smallest town I've ever lived in. They're like, this is the biggest town I've ever lived in. What are you talking about? I'm like, I came from Knoxville and it was the Charlotte. So, but I think the community is great. And getting to know the folks in Richmond. We try to stay as involved as we can. I've got 2 kids, and I think it's a nice community, and we've really enjoyed getting to know everyone and joining the community. So.
Yeah, I think, I came from a small town in Idaho, and I thought, moving across the country, where am I going to? And I was planning to live in Lexington because I thought I'm going to live in the big city now. I'm going to get out of the small town. And I went, I had 3 days moving down here, and my parents were going to move here too at the same time. They had been living in Oregon, getting older. And so we all came down to look for houses. We looked for houses for me in Lexington one day and for them in Richmond one day. And on the third day, we both bought houses in Richmond. So I don't know how that worked out, but it has been a really good move. I'm very glad I lived in Richmond. It's a great community. I made friends very quickly. Almost right away, I met a group of ladies that we do yoga. We call each other the Yoga Chicks. We've been together. I just had Lake Day with the Yoga Chicks this past weekend. So I think that community has been great. It was very easy to come into this community and feel a part of it. And then certainly the EKU community has also been just as easy. I don't think I've ever met people here at EKU that would not be willing to help me. I think you can really go to anybody and say, I don't understand how this works. Can you give me more information about it? And they're going to try to help you. And I think that is something you don't necessarily find everywhere. So don't be shy about reaching out and just asking questions. And, you're not going to be stupid. You're not going to, be a pain. People really genuinely want to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the sense of community, like I didn't come from the similar kind of city. I'm actually from Kazakhstan. I came from abroad, but I lived in Seattle. I lived in Oregon, Orlando. I lived in New York, and I worked in like United Nations before and other organizations that are much larger. But when I came here, the first thing that struck me is that sense of like, like safety community that's there to support you. And you will receive a lot of emails from Rusty. Oh, here we have this, we went that. And do not dismiss this, because it may look and sound overwhelming your first year, but there's so many resources that you will hear and you will receive on this meeting, during these meetings, and you will still be able to meet with each other and create this community of your cohort kind of relationships within this specific group, but also things like writers retreat, for example. I've been participating like in 2 consecutive years, and I got a publication out, and then there has one is on the way. Like this is the resources are like right in front of you. So do not like just be like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't go. Like, I would highly recommend to do that, because this would be your first step. You don't have to do anything. You just go there and everything is already there, laid out in front of you. Okay. So yeah, and my children, like I have a 11-year-old and a 4-year-old, they both affiliated with Model, EKU Model. It's so nice to have them right here on campus, where they also affiliated with, well, other children of professors who, a lot of professors who are here, they have their children there. And this is like creates that sense of like closeness, and I'm really enjoying it so far. So I hope this will work out the same for you.
So to start off, Richmond and EKU is home through here, very short commute. So I'm used to Richmond. But what I was going to say is make sure to get to know the people in this room. And I'm not just talking about Rusty and Chris. They are great, excellent resources out there. I'm really talking about you all getting to know each other. I still remember to this day sitting at this table up here where Andrew and Christy are, and I sat with Travis Walkwiak from marketing. Travis is still here. Okay. Those tables surrounding us from there. We had Tom Stevens from Paralegal Studies, Jason Yeager, from Paralegal Studies, Jason Yeager from Police Studies from that, and then Zach Miller from Construction Management. So we all became great professional friends from New Faculty Symposium. Kind of going along with that, so back in May, Zach and I presented at the Pedagogicon conference together, and Tom was right in the room there cheering us on, taking pictures and everything. Only 3 of the 5 of us are still here at EKU, but those connections were built here at New Faculty Symposium. So make sure to exchange information, make sure to collaborate and get to know each other.
And I'll just give a shout out to the Red River Gorge. If you like to be outside and hiking, I go to the gorge a lot. It's wonderful. So we have a beautiful nature around here. It's just a beautiful part of the state. I'm not from Kentucky either. So when I moved down here, I was like, this is one of the most beautiful states I've ever been to. So take advantage of that. We're just minutes from the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So take advantage of that. And lots of festivals around. I just went to the AL8 100-year anniversary in Winchester Festival. It was delightful. If you don't know what AL8 is, you'll find out. You can't not know. Okay, our final question for the panel, and then we'll open it up to all the rest of you to ask us questions. If you could give one piece of advice to people in this room, what would it be? Let's go first.
Well, I would say give yourself a grace for first year. You don't have to figure out everything in your first year. Be open to accept help from others. Be open to learn during the process. Be open to relationships. That's the important thing. Like everybody said that already, but yes, invest yourself into building these relationships with your colleagues, with your department, outside of your department, with your students. This is, I think, more important than like trying to chase everything at once. And you will get a lot of opportunities where there will be like a lot of resources like given for you, and you're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. Like, kind of pace yourself and just like, focus on, yes, just be present, be here, and build this long-term relationships with people around you.
So I know each of you are dedicated to your craft, your profession, and to teaching, and that is great. But also make sure to take a break as well. So what I like to do is to plan a short trip between each semester. Like last December, I went to Chicago for a few days. Back in June, I went to New York, and I just came back from DC on Sunday. You don't have to plan trips. You don't have to do that if that's not your thing, but make sure to plan a little bit of time for you to rest and recharge and come back. Make sure you come back strong. make sure to protect your mental health as well and within this process.
I think in your first year, whether you are experienced faculty or not, you get asked to do all kinds of things. Everyone's really excited to see you. Some people are trying to get off of certain committees. You are going to get asked or told a lot of things like, hey, we've got this great committee. I think you should say yes to this, or I think you should come on to this project. I think you should do this. And it's, especially if you're a people pleaser, you're going to have a hard time. So what you are going to say is, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to talk to my department chair and see if it fits in my workload. Okay, everybody write that down. You're going to need it. And whether you talk to your department chair or not, I think it's a good idea that you should, but it gives you a minute to step back and go, does this fit with my goals? Does this fit with my career, my professional plan, my journey towards tenure and promotion? Because you can't do all the things and you're going to be asked to do a lot of things. I always say you have to learn how to juggle in this job. To be on a tenure track in particular, you have to be able to juggle a lot of different things. And if you are struggling with that, then that is when it's time to reach out, because it's just every day is different and there's a lot of things that you have to handle. So don't feel like you have to pick them all up, especially your first year.
Yeah, let your chair defend you. So you can hide behind your chair. So like I remember I think the chairs here are much different than other institutions that I've been at. Very supportive. I mean, most chairs that I've worked with, and really want to have your interests at heart. Another thing is, when you're teaching for the first year, make sure you talk to your colleagues about the classes. Because I came in and I was like, okay, I think I think like this is a really good idea. We should implement this in this part of the class. And they were like, we thought about this. It didn't work for this reason, right? Things like that. So, you will have a lot of experienced educators and teachers in your department. So make sure that you talk to someone if you've got ideas. I think we're all very open to bouncing ideas off each other. I would talk to everyone maybe like once a day about, what we're doing in our teaching during my first couple of years. So make sure to reach out to your colleagues too.
Okay, so you have a panel of educators here who have been at EKU for a short time, some for a longer time. But we're happy and anxious to hear what questions you have. It can be about any aspect of being an educator here at EKU. So what do you got for us? And we've got the catch box we want to throw around. Who's got a question? Hey, Chris, can you throw that catch box at us? Well, Mr. May in the back.
Almost through it. The president said that the university is moving, or incrementally, I guess, toward a research, emphasizing research and doing that sort of thing. Administrators always say that. So from the faculty perspective, what have they done that is supportive of you as faculty members doing research?
I can speak directly to that. So like I said, I'm one of the faculty research fellows. Faculty research fellows? I can't remember. It's in my signature. So I work directly with Dean Baggett, Dean Sismar on the research side. The president has given an internal investment of $250,000 per year to help bolster research. I think maybe you'll hear more about this week. But what's been the significant impact that's happened over the last year is that, and maybe you'll hear about it, we have this thing called the University Funded Scholarship, where you can apply for an internal grant. Last year it was for up to $15,000. It's a seed fund to help get another bigger type of grant. And so all of this investment is to help the faculty bolster research university-wide. There's also increase in publication costs. So we can now pay for your publication costs if you have any. There's an increase in it used to be called the URC. Now it's the SCRE, Student Research and SRCE, Student Research and Creative Endeavors. If you go to eku.edu/research, you'll see all of this on there. The pot of money that we have for students to do research to support you working with students in research has gone up from almost nothing to $20,000. We supported, I think, 15 or more internal grants last year. Another great thing about the UFS is it allows you to pay for students. So that's one of the big things, is that students will want to work with you on your scholarship and your research, but it's nice to pay them. I've been a big proponent of that. I've applied for internal, external funds to pay for students to do research. And that's one way that we've been able to retain a lot. Another great thing about the UFS is that you can pay for your own summer money. You can pay yourself. So you actually say, I'm going to do this research over the summer, and I'm actually going to get paid to do it. And so this was the first time that we've been able to do that. I think that change is real. And so I look for more opportunities as they arise. And if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer.
I have another one.
Yeah.
Has there been any discussion? Let's say everybody has a 4-4 teaching load. I only know what our college is. Has there been discussion of, if you're publishing, if you're working, reducing that teaching load by 1, so you don't have to have a grant, but you can buy out that course and do research?
The short answer is yes. And maybe Rusty can say more, but I think I know. But I believe there's going to be, so previously the way it was done is that the department chairs or the college level would make some decisions about some course release. And now it's going to be, you're going to apply for it. Is that right, Rusty? And so you'll be able to apply for a teaching load reduction to do more research. And I don't know if you want to say.
You captured it. The idea is a systematic way of allocating that time and space across the institution, and ensuring that it's intentional, and then also the resources are behind it. I won't go into the details about the all of what led to that, but Jason covered it adequately. The answer is yes, and there's a systematic process for it.
Thank you.
And it'll be developed this year, so it will be, let's see.
Who else?
Here you go.
Right. Okay. So coming from industry, and Lucas talked a lot about mental health. This summer was incredibly weird having summer off. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I was, it was a different lifestyle, right? And so my question is, how do you guys stay engaged when you're not teaching? You have any tips or tricks on, when you have to ramp up, when the semester's starting, or just how you balance family life and whatnot when you're not teaching?
I can share a little bit of my experience. So my summer class didn't make it. Like I needed 2 more students to make it 15, so it will happen. It didn't happen. So I was like, oh well. So what I was doing is I applied for the Governor's Scholars Program. I don't know if you heard about it. It's like the program that is sponsored by the governor, and it's about getting students from each and every county, like the schools that are like the best students. They don't have to only have like a high GPS, but they also have to be involved with the communities and just be an excellent, leaders in the community. So this was so much fun to do that for 5 weeks. It was really teaching intense. I was like, oh, you wanted to teach, and here you go. But I had to leave on campus. I lived in Center College, and it was great. And also, like, they pay you for that. That was not planned, but the National Institute of Justice reached out to me and asked me to review grants for them. And I was like, oh, okay, that shouldn't be that hard. I can do this at the same time when I teach GSP. And that was a big mistake. So I had to do this like in my, what we call like own time. So, night sometimes. It was intense, but again, it was fun because it was different experience, and I did really want to learn the whole process. So that was really and they pay you too a little bit. So that was also kind of the thing. So I feel like there's always opportunities to see what else you can do. Like alongside with that, I didn't mention it, but I also reviewed some articles for Victim and Offenders Journal, for example, and I collaborated with the faculty member here at Criminal Justice Department. We're working on the same paper. So it was like just little projects here and there. But like I feel like we always can search and find different things. Just make sure they do not overlap and like the big things, obviously. Even if it's not something at EKU, I feel like you could always find something else to do in summer. Or if you're a big fan of hiking, that could be the whole that could be the whole thing. Yeah, the whole theme. Like I know that there are a lot of hiking groups around here. They like meet in Red River Gorge and they explore like different trails and things like that. They're family friendly, pet friendly, and all of that. So that could be also another thing to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And it is a weird feeling, especially your first summer. This is my second, and it's still a weird feeling with that. But try to take a break in June and July as much as you possibly can. I still try to stay engaged. I still check email every day. My program coordinator, he's pretty active, sending out this email about this idea or that idea, but he's not expecting an immediate response. It can go a few days or a week from that. So we'll say we're definitely blessed, I think, in justice and safety to have that as well. But then this summer, I actually worked on a project with the College of Business. They're developing a professional certificate in financial technology and cyber risk. So one of the classes that I teach is physical security and cybersecurity, mainly physical, but a little bit of cyber. So I worked this summer to develop those modules, and then they're going to be publishing that. And then a bunch of the bankers and people on like board of directors for financial institutions will be taking that starting on September 1st. Cool. So that was a paid development for this summer. But next summer, I don't really know what to expect. There's nothing planned right now for that. So
I haven't had a summer off in a really long time. I'm on a 12-month, but I will say, as the further you get along in teaching, the more projects you will have that you didn't have time to finish during the year. And so I think the summer becomes a fine line of trying to get ahead or caught up. Writing, if you're trying to get something published, that sometimes at home in the summer can just be a nice time to do that. But it's a fine line between finishing things up and not just working for free, not getting a break. So you have to do what's going to help you in the year ahead, but don't do so much that you're coming back exhausted and pissed off. You want to take that break because I think a 9-month contract is a real gift.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I do a lot of, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been lucky enough for the last couple of years to find ways to support myself during the summer. If you want to do that, there are many different ways you can do that through grants or through other avenues. But I also spend that time to work with students and do some of that research. I know that's not what a lot of other folks do, but that is a possibility.
I'll share some advice that a senior faculty member gave me my first year, I think, and that was never teach in the summer. Now, I don't know if you have that option. Never teach in the summer because you need that break to do the things that Dana was talking about. And he also said, if you teach in the summer, you'll start to get used to that money. And that will become your yearly budget, and it'll be very difficult for you to get off of that. So, he said, don't teach in the summer. And of course, I taught in the summer, my first summer, and I realized he's right because it really was, I really didn't feel like I had a break. And I think maybe I guess what I would say is if you have this is getting into the last question I could have had, my piece of advice to you might be teach abroad. If you can teach abroad, I waited until much too late in my career to do it for the first time. We have several organizations that are beyond this, this campus participates, but it's beyond this campus too. And we have a study abroad office on campus. So if you want to figure out how to study abroad or teach abroad, I should say, teach abroad, You can do it. I don't care what department you're in. We have programs in almost every discipline that you can find that are already established. And not all of them, but many of them are in the summer. And so I've taught in the summer in Paris, and I've taught in Austria, and I have colleagues who teach in Greece and Spain and Argentina and Scandinavia, Japan, all over the world, Egypt. And it's typically this organization, it's a 4-week thing. And so you go and you teach for 4 weeks, you get paid. I wouldn't say I came back in the black often because, you're also in Europe or wherever you are and it's great, but it's sort of a more or less free, more or less vacation, not a vacation. It's work, but it's wonderful. It's really exciting. And the student transformation you see when you take students abroad is unlike anything I've seen in a classroom. When students go abroad and they're Kentuckians and they've never been outside of Kentucky, maybe, and you get them on a plane for the first time and into a big airport, their eyes are gigantic and they're wonderful. And they come back 4 weeks later and they're like seasoned travelers and are like savvy and, it's great. It's wonderful. So that's what I've done in some of my summers. And it's the best thing I do in the summer. But I also say having summers doing research, writing, catching up, relaxing, it's a gift, right? If you're on a 9-month contract, there are lots of perks for this job, but that's definitely one of them. Don't throw it away without thinking about it carefully. Yes.
You guys mentioned earlier, I can look at.
I don't want to throw it at.
Oh, thank you. I can't catch, so I appreciate that. You guys mentioned that you were tracking things so like you can put them in your tenure and promotion document. Can you talk a little bit about like how you're tracking or how you're structuring your check-ins with your calendar and the work that you're doing for that documentation building?
Yeah, I have a OneNote page, like using OneNote. And I have 3 separate categories that I just copy and paste over from each year: research, teaching, and service. At the beginning of the semester, write down all the classes that I'm teaching. And then I already start to make bullet points about what I'm actually doing in the class, what changes have been made, just some thoughts, some observations. And then for research and service, I write down, okay, I'm going to mentor this student, I'm going to work on this project. And then as things come or as during your teaching, if some things change, or if you join a committee, I'm like, okay, I'll write that down on my notes. Don't forget. And what am I doing in that committee? And what have I done? And so as it comes in, I have to remind myself to continuously write it down. And then I start I'm thinking about, so once you write your first narrative for your P&T evaluation, it kind of makes sense the second time you go around it, but start to think about a narrative. So, you will have to produce something that's like, this is the way I was thinking about teaching. This is where I implemented it. These are the changes that I'm going to make. And so if you think about what you're doing, what you can do better, what didn't work too, you can write about. But anytime that information comes to you, I try to write it down.
If you're in the College of Health Sciences, you're going to meet with me about this. You're probably getting an email today or tomorrow, because I meet with everybody to kind of go over the criteria, and hopefully your colleges do that as well. You can download the actual document you have to download every year anyway. So download it, make that your document that you have open. Because I love that. I did the same thing. But it's helpful to have the document because it has the headings of what you're supposed to talk about. And so beyond just teaching, research, and service, it'll tell you talk about course design or talk about course evaluation. And so that gives you an idea of what you're going to be talking about in there. And then keep in mind that that narrative is a self-evaluation. So you are writing about what went well, what didn't go well, what are you going to do better next time, that type of thing. Your first year, you do not have to write that narrative. The first year is just the cover page and meeting and the CV and meeting with your department chair. So you have time to kind of get the hang of it. But the sooner you know the kinds of things you have to collect, the better. So also keep your CV up to date. The minute you do something, put it right on your CV because it's very hard to remember later. So kind of do those things in concert, just get in the habit of once a month or something, or every time you've done something, put it on those two documents, because it is easy to lose track of all the great things you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. About putting things right there when it happens, because you think like, oh, I don't remember. Oh, it's okay. Maybe like, the end of this month or in the end of the semester. And then you're like, oh my God, what did I do? And when did I do this? And I have, in addition to the actual document, which is actually really helpful to have, because you will need to fill that in. And that takes some time to, I have my own little table where I put different things, like here's the date, here's the event, people involved, like the level. Also, I put the level, university, college, department level, because then you'll just need to copy paste, from that into your narratives. And then I also have like notes to myself. How did I contribute? What exactly did I do here? How did I benefit, and what I want to do with this in the future? Things like that. Do I want to do this again in the future? Just kind of have that tracking this down. And also, again, just do this as soon as involved in anything, like either it's a committee or any sort of like event or an activity with students or anything else.
Yeah, and I'll say for me, being on the non-tenure track, it can be a little bit different, especially when it comes to evals. It's similar to tenure track in some ways. But like for me, my first year, my first eval was it was at the end of January. And, I just started in August. But I went through, highlighted everything. I had a whole lot of paragraphs and details of all the different committees and things that I was on, some outside the university that do relate from that. And they're like, you need to really kind of condense this, do some more bullet points next time. I'm like, okay, I'll keep that in mind. But then it, came around to June, that time frame, they did another eval. That was kind of a mistake, but I was able to update that for the June aspect. So just keep that in mind, and especially your supporting documentation from there. So like papers that you have written, maybe agendas, things of that nature. Try to keep track of those, and you can track those also within the Google folder that you will receive from that. And also, if you all have professional certifications, like I'm a certified emergency manager, I have other credentials as well, and I have to recertify every so many years. Some of that will also count as well. So some of that supporting documentation can count for your certifications, but it can also count for your P&T. So you're really helping yourself out there as well.
Does your hobby certifications help? I was like, I got certified in wilderness first aid and cave rescue orientation.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I would say, I would say,
Do some research about it.
yeah, I would say put it down for sure. And if they tell you to take it off, then you can take it off there in the end. But, in terms of service, like I list all the different other committees and things that I'm on. Like I chaired the Board of Health in my county. I put that on there. It's definitely related. I'm the committee chair for our local Boy Scout troop. I list that as well. So, if they tell me one day to take it off, I will. But if not, I'm going to list it.
Okay, so community too, not just here at EKU.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just, because I'm not sure here if a promotion and tenure mentor is assigned by college or whatever, but if it's not, that's something that you should look for within, if not your department, within the college, because they'll have, find somebody that maybe recently on sabbatical or somebody that's recently gone through the whole process would be a really big help. As for somebody that's a new tenure track faculty member, to really build that up and to bounce stuff off, meet with them regularly just to get an idea of that you're collecting the right stuff, that you're participating in the right activities.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is great advice. And I think that is department and college specific about how they give you a buddy or a partner, but it's definitely worth looking into. And then the other thing that you really need your hands on is your department P&T guidelines, because it's kind of hierarchical. There's going to be university P&T, there's going to be some at the college level, and then there's going to be your department. If you meet your department, you're going to be meeting the 2 levels above you as well. So start with your department level, and that's going to tell you what you need to collect. So it'll tell you if you need a certain number of publications. It'll tell you, what your expectations are in terms of service. And usually that is professional service, service to the department, and community service. You may not have to do all of those things, so check on your department. And then teaching, so keeping your evaluations. They may have requirements about what scores you need to get or how you're going to report those, or that you need to have a peer evaluation done. So you really should start with your department level guidelines. I would sit with your department chair and go through them. Again, you're not going to have to report on those this first year, but the second year, you're going to have to do a portfolio that's in the Google folders. You'll be writing your self-narrative, and then you'll also be uploading evidence to support all of that. So if you're saying, well, I was great, I published an article this year, you're going to upload the article. If you're going to upload your course evaluations. So it really is helpful this first year to understand what you are expected to keep and write about, because you can be keeping those saved in the right format with the right, labels and all the things, so that you're really organized as you move forward. Everybody's got something on that one.
No, and so you've got department, college, university, profession. And in your first year, most of your service is going to be department and college level. I don't think I did anything at the university level my first year. I don't think many people do. And so don't be surprised by that. The university service ramps up after the second and third year.
Or later. But we're at time, and I want to give you a time before our next session. Please join me in thanking our panelists.